Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It has been a while since I've made one of these videos. I will be back to more frequent recording, so please bear with me. Today we're looking at making this Instagram gallery. We are going to go through navigating the Facebook slash Meta app creation and documentation and stuff like that, along with coding this out in Next.js. We're going to be using Tailwind to do the styling on this website. So let's dive into the project. If you haven't already, please give the channel a subscribe. We've got lots of exciting content coming up really soon. So the first thing that we need to do, and we're going to get to the end of this with a full solution, don't worry. The first thing we're going to do is create an app in Facebook. So it's a consumer app, and this is important. And what I'm actually going to be doing is adding it to my own website. So I'm going to add some Instagram stuff on here. All of that looks fine to me. And then let me just enter in my password. Okay, cool. So now that we have a Facebook app created, we can use what is called the Instagram basic display. So if you haven't created a consumer app, you probably won't see this. So let's set up Instagram basic display. So we need to create a platform. So I believe if we go to basic settings, we can add a platform. So let's add website. And then I'm just going to add my website URL here. So then let's go back to, did that not work? Not a good start. So website, just gonna put this in there, and I think it needed privacy policy URL. I mean, I don't particularly have a privacy policy. Let's just make sure we put a live website in there. So that seems to be good. So we need data deletion instructions. Let's do that as well. I have no idea what I just had copied. Let's try that. I think if you want to launch this into live mode, make sure these are proper URLs, right? So make sure you have terms of service, privacy policy, things like that. So now that we have this basic setup done for the Facebook app, we're going to create a Instagram basic display situation. So let's call this Instagram. That will do. Certain terms like Instagram are not allowed. Okay, let's try that. Sam's happy with that one. So we've now got an Instagram app ID and an Instagram app secret. That is great. So let's save the changes here. Which field? Which field do we need to fill in? This would be a good one. I don't know what that is. So the next step is actually to add Instagram testers. So let's see if we can go ahead and do that. So Instagram testers is how we're going to provide access and give an access token. So I'm going to select my Instagram, hit submit. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull this over here and log into Instagram. So bear with me for just one moment. So when we're adding a tester, what this allows us to do is we go into profile, we edit profile, we go into apps and websites, and we should see tester invitations. We can accept the tester invitation. And now we should be good to go. So if I give that a refresh, we can see we've got Instagram tester. So if I go back to the basic display, what I want to do is get a user token. And that's what we're going to use within our website. So I'm going to generate a token. So I'm logging in again. You will log in a few times during this. So it's saying we're taking profile information and also our media. So I'm going to say I understand that. I'm going to copy that. Don't worry, that is not the full one. And I'm going to delete the stuff right afterwards. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a environment variable. So we didn't talk much about how we're building it. We're going to build it within Next.js. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got a env.local file. Let me just do something off screen here for a second because there's quite a few API keys in here. So Instagram key equals that. So I have created, and I'll be able to show you now. So I have created the secret and we've got it in here like this. So Instagram key equals, and then we've got our Instagram key right after that. So let's think conceptually what we want to do, and let me show you where I'm up to with the website. So on localhost, I'm going to go to a gallery page, and as you can see, we've got a blank page. I've included the header, the navigation, and the footer, and then we've also got the div with a correct background color in here. So what I really want is to statically generate this page. I'm not posting to Instagram a lot at the moment, and it's not really something that needs to refresh often. If people want to see and get notifications on Instagram, then they will follow on Instagram and things. It's more just for casual browsing, I guess, on the website. So we're just going to refresh it every I don't know, every few hours. But let's create our function to create the data call. So we're going to do export cons get static probs. We don't need any parameters in here. And what we need now is the URL making. So within the basic display, so if we go to Instagram basic display API, we can see the documentation here. So what we want to do is get started. And this is why I think it's good to have this video on it, because there is a lot of information here. So get profiles and media. So we don't want to get a user's media. So query user media. So this is the query string we want to do here. So let's paste this down below. So I'm going to say URL equals, and let's paste this in and see what we've got. So access token equals, so that's correct. That's what we call the Instagram token, I believe. Instagram key. So that's going to pull in our access token, and we're asking for the ID and caption. So what we actually want on top of this, we need, and I'm just looking to the side here, because these names weren't as intuitive as I thought they would be. So we've got media URL timestamp. We can do media type like this. And then I'm going to do also permalink like so. And that will give us the link to the actual Instagram post itself. So now that we have this, let's format that. Now that we have this, we want to actually make the request. So we'll say we get our data equals fetch. I'm going to pass that the URL. And then I'm going to switch this out to be asynchronous. And I'm going to do await fetch. And then when we get that, we need to say feed equals await data.json. Exactly. If you haven't seen Copilot, GitHub Copilot, that is what's prompted me for these code completions, GitHub Copilot. So I'm going to console log that feed and let's see what we've got. So we've defined the URL, we've passed it our access token, and that's probably one of the things that works sensibly because it's defining the user account. So we're using the /me. It's taken the user account information out of that access token. So it knows which user to grab based on the access token. So if I go to my gallery now and refresh, invalid JSON response body. So what have we done wrong? /me, /media, fields equals ID, caption, media URL, timestamp, media type, permalink, and access token. I think we need to restart our dev server so that this access token environment variable is actually going to pull through. Nope. Or maybe yes. Yeah. So we've now got all of my Instagram posts, pictures, whatever you want to call them. We've now got them. And essentially, we're ready to display them on the front end. So we did get an error here saying we didn't return an object. So let's return that object now. We want to return the props. And let's return the feed. And we're good to go. So then within here, we want to pull in the feed like so. I'm just saying that the type of that is going to be any. Don't worry about that. It's just a TypeScript thing. So, okay. And now if I console log this feed within this component, we're now within the front end. So this is happening on the server side. Environment variables, don't forget, when you are exposing it on the server side, that is absolutely fine. It's never going to be exposed to the front end. And actually Next.js, if you try to use this environment variable within here, for example, it wouldn't let you do it. You would have to prefix it with next_public. So you've got that separation. So let's look at our gallery now and check out the console. And we have got an object which has data within it. So that is great. And it's got some paging as well. I'm not sure on the default, to be honest, but yeah, who knows? So inside of this div, we are going to map over every image within the list array. Sorry, not list array. I'm using Python day to day now, so I'm calling arrays lists. So we're going to map through the images array. I'm just going to say if we have images available, we're going to do images.map. Let's get rid of that. And then we want to say for every image, like so, let's do something. I think, let's close that out again. So what we want to do is, let's just make a div and put an image inside of that. I'm going to give you an option soon around how to use Next.js for these images. One of the issues with Instagram is when we're doing image optimization with Next, we need to declare all of the domains, and I will show you why that might be a problem with Instagram in a sec. So we've got the image media URL that we pulled, and then the alt, let's do the image.caption. And then also as a key, what do we actually have as a key? I'm not sure. Let me leave that missing. I think I have linting on here, so that's probably why. So image, that's fine. That can be any. And then let's look on the front end what we can use for our key. So we got an ID. So we'll do key equals ID. And the reason we give everything a key, and that actually needs to go to the div. The reason we give everything a key is a React thing. Basically, so when stuff is rendered and it's in an order, if you're moving it around, it needs to track those movements, essentially, to see if there's been changes. Does it need to re-render, things like that? So it's really important that you give everything an ID, and that's why I have linting on to make sure that it does it. And okay, it looks like we've got some images here. So that's not really the size of images we want. So let's do something to change that. And I'm just going to do something really basic because the point of this is not really the styling. It is more just the concept of being able to do this. So let's do grid, and I say grid calls 1. So we're using Tailwind CSS for the styling. If you're new here, that's pretty much all I will use. So we've got grid calls 1, and when we're bigger than, let's say, medium, let's do grid calls 2. And that should have it into 2 columns for us now. So if we take a look, we've got 2 columns, perfect. Now I also want to do on here, so let's do max width. Let's try 3XL, I think, and then let's do some padding like this. And then between the images, let's put a bit of a gap. Okay, that's looking good. And then let's also make sure those are centered like that. So we now have them in the middle, all nicely centered. We could declare a width and a height, which might be good to do. So on the image here, we can do width and height. No, let's not do that. Let's make sure on the image, we've got the class name of object cover. We can see here on Instagram that some of these are actually, they're not full images, which is absolutely fine. I mean that they're not fully square. Like this one is more horizontal. So let's actually set a width and a height. So if I do width equals, let's say 600, height equals 600, then let's refresh that. Okay, that's not doing anything. One thing that might be cool to do on this is if we do aspect square, and then there we go. So we don't necessarily need the width and height. We've got the aspect ratio of square, and then we're using the object cover. Now, if this was using next image, then I would declare the width and height of something like 500, 600, because they're not going to be ever any bigger than this, right? And that's not giving me pixels. So you might do 400 by 400, and that's going to optimize the images in the best way that you can. So I think actually, let's do another one. So we say if it's XL, we'll do grid calls 3, maybe. Get 3 on there and make the width bigger. I don't necessarily think that fits the style of this website. I think it's better before, but I'm just showing you the options and the possibility. I think for sure on the mobile view we could do with some more padding. So let's just do px6 across the board for now. And that is cool. I also think gap wise, let's do gap of 5 and then small screens and bigger. Let's do gap. Let's try 4, see what that looks like. Yeah, it's probably a little bit better. I think with my website, I have everything kind of dulled down. I kind of like that style where it's dulled down. So one thing that we can do with this is exactly that. So if I do on the image itself, let's do filter and then let's do grayscale. And then when it's hover, we can do filter none. See what that looks like. So that's cool. Pretty fast though. So I think what we need to do with this is do transition. Transition, I think it's just colors that we should be doing to apply filters. Let's try transition colors. And then we can do duration 150. See if that is working. Doesn't appear to be working. Let's try transition as well. Okay, that appears to be working. But we don't need both of those, right? Okay, that's working. So we could do duration, a couple hundred. Yep, I think that is better. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, for me, I will definitely do just 2 columns like that. I might want the gap to be a bit bigger. It was this one, wasn't it? Gap 10. Yeah, I think max width of 2XL, 3XL is good. So then it matches, and that gap is way too big now. Gap 4. And then we could just round the corners a tiny bit on these. So we could just do a rounded small. So it just rounds the corners off a little bit. That is cool. And then within this div, maybe we wanted to do the caption. So let's put a H2 for all these image titles, and we call it image.caption. And then we can call a class name. I think the text is slate on here. So let's try that. That looks fine. I think we do margin top of like 2, maybe 1. I think text small will look good here. Font semi-bold. I think that looks pretty good. It's starting to look a bit more like an Instagram thing now. And this div, let's just do padding bottom of 2, just to stretch out the gap so it's clear that this is to there. I feel like when we do the padding bottom, if we do that and then we do that, that will look a bit cleaner. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, so hopefully you get the idea of this now. One thing I would say, you can definitely go ahead and style this a lot better. I'm going to make some changes to it and make sure I'm fully happy with the way it looks. It's certainly not ready to go on. Clearly I need on this page, let's do that. I was doing Instagram gallery. I'm not really sure what title styles I use normally. Let me just take all of this. So we got that consistent. Yeah, that definitely needs to sit within a div, which has those same styles on it there. I think for this one, I will change it from a div to like main. And then this one, I will change from div to header. Just so we've got, it's a little bit more semantic, right? And then in this div, let's do max width 3XL. And then on everything, we've got padding of 4 and then a padding of 6. And you know what? I'm going to make that match here. Unexpected token. Where's my error? Header. Cool. So, and then we just need MXLO on this one to put it in the middle. I think clearly we can do some margin top on that one. I'm not sure what it is on my other pages. You know, I'm checking the other pages here to see the margin and stuff, just because you want to keep a consistent design across your site. Certainly sometimes you will have something that calls for being a little bit different, right? But for the most part, you want to keep a consistent design between your pages. So if we're switching between this page and this one, we're not getting massive changes. See, that text was in the same place. It's kind of expected. We're waiting for the title to appear there. Cool. So I think that concludes the initial setup of Instagram, and you've got it on your website. Now, if you're using Next and it's a static site like mine is, one thing that you could do is leave it like it is. And the reason I say that, and what I'm referring to, is we're not going to put a refresh on it if you don't want to have to worry about the next parts. So Facebook make it really, really difficult, and I would say overcomplicated in the way that they do. Not overcomplicated, I understand why it happens, but it makes something that should be as simple as what we've just done, it makes it actually quite difficult. So we need to refresh our access token every 60 days. Now, the way that we can do that is by making an API request to the refresh token endpoint 1 day after a token is created and before it expires. So after a day, we've got 59 days to then make a refresh token request and we'll get back a new token. So we can set up a process to do that every time. So, you know, ahead of this, we can set up that process. Or we could do another thing is we could set up a way to store our current token. We could then make that refresh token request and check, you know, does it need refreshing? And we can then put the new token into the database as a current token and then repeat that process along with that. But clearly, you know, this is a statically generated site. The blog is built with the CMS for that is Notion. We're literally just pulling in blog posts from the Notion API. I don't really want to connect the database just for that solution. So there is services out there where you can pay £1 a month to refresh your Instagram token. I am not joking, it does exist. But the complexity from here on out will increase. So I'm going to call this video to an end now, and then we're going to look at a solution to the Instagram token problem in the next video. Maybe it's interesting for you, maybe it's not. I think it's a fun little project that we'll crack on with. So yeah, I will see you in the next video for that one.